Holly Coble.
Yes, I'm so glad to finally meet you, Parker.
Same, very, very much the
Yes.
same. Thank you. And thanks for staying and chatting. I want to know everything about you.
Oh, well, thank you. You ask, I'll tell.
Okay, so when did you start painting? When did you know that you're an artist? I mean, it's inside, right?
It's
deep
inside,
inside. When did you
right.
know? When did the light bulb and you said, I think I am an artist?
Well, my mom is an artist. She went to art school. She taught art, elementary art while I was growing up. And so we grew up with an easel in the kitchen. So there
In
was
the
never
kitchen?
in the kitchen. And so she would cook, we would paint, and that's just how we lived life. And that was normal for us. And in high school, I was always gifted in math and science, and so was pushed more in that direction because, hey, you're good at it, go do it.
Right.
And I think it was when
Left
I was
brain, left
left
brain.
brain. But when I was in college, I was studying engineering, and I realized I think I'd rather design the bridge and care about what the bridge looks like than care if it could, accommodate people in life. So
how
that
many
was the
people?
moment that I think I realized that my passion for design and color and creating outweighed the mathematical side of
Well, I can only
of
imagine the
myself.
bridges that you would have
So,
built, though.
well, thank
Colorful.
you.
People would be like, I feel about this
I
bridge.
feel, yes.
Well, lots of talents. Hard to choose when you have so many talents,
well,
right?
thank you. But I tell you, it has definitely unlocked a side of myself, just giving into that side of creativity and design, that it's untapped something that has been always a part of me, but now I feel like it's who I am. And then I enjoy the left brain side of it too, where there's a lot of calculations and mixing colors and thinking about composition. So I feel like art is who I am, and it embraces both sides of who I am.
Yeah, perfect. That's television does that too,
Yeah.
where it's the editing and the producing is all linear, sort of left brain, but then you have a lot of latitude for the creativity part on the
I
right
could
brain.
see how that would be.
Yeah, and I like to be able to use all of my brain as much as possible, and you too.
Yeah.
And so tell me, what's I've seen a lot of still life flowers on
Mhm.
your. Do you have a favorite subject that you besides boats now? Which is
I
your
know
favorite?
boats really have come to the forefront, but I've always loved flowers because I've always joked that that's something that is easily accessible. I always have a vase of flowers in my house, so if I'm looking to paint something, it's right there in front of me.
Yeah.
And with small children, I don't always have the leeway to work up a still life, at the
Because they
drop
don't
of a
sit
hat.
still.
They don't sit still. So I paint what's there, but at the same time, I do love the open water. I love landscape. I love still lifes, and I love all sorts of things. So it's just a time of exploration for me.
Now, how about the style? Is this style similar to that of your mother's, or is this your own style?
This is definitely my own.
Yeah.
My mom was a very talented watercolorist and also a potter.
Oh, really?
But for me, I would say I have a looser style that
That's what
I
drew me
use
to
my
you.
brush very freely,
Mhm.
where she's very just almost photorealistic.
Mhm.
And
So more controlled.
very controlled.
Mhm.
So, but it's been exciting to be able to go down this path together because
Yeah.
we talk art and talk shop a lot.
Oh,
together.
really?
Yeah.
Is there any contention in terms of which one is the better? I mean, all art, the world has room for all. So I have to scratch even saying that
right.
because there is no better.
Yeah.
I do prefer, for me personally, a loose style. So
Mhm.
that's why I was drawn, pardon the pun, to you.
Yeah.
Because I just thought your style is bright and colorful, and I'd love to maybe have one of your floral arrangements
Oh.
sometimes too.
Yes.
I get flowers like we get groceries. I'll say,
Always.
Cap, we're out of flowers, just like we're out of milk or
Yes.
butter or anything like that.
This vase needs to be filled.
Yeah, no, I really feel
Yes.
it's I'm lucky that I'm able to have that extra little bit of beauty in my life, but
Mhm.
I use flowers as part of my self-healing and all
It
that other
is,
stuff.
yes.
And so to paint them, I wonder, do you
Well,
get the
and
same healing feeling?
I do, and I feel like flowers they're such an intuitive thing for me to paint because you're bringing life and you're bringing it into a painting, and there's so many nuances of color, and I think that's my little tagline I've always said is light, life, and color.
Light,
Because
light and color.
I think that there's so much that is brought out by the light when it hits any sort of setting, whether it's a landscape or a still life of flowers. you see different varying hues and values. But the life that you can really bring out and show through your painting is just a wonderful thing. And of course, there are colors, lots and lots of colors.
Yeah,
so.
and I love the colors in your painting, and you definitely feel like you've brought my friend to life again.
Oh, well, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, I love seeing that boat in the morning. It's very special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really special. And you took a bit of creative liberty with some of the details in there, which is awesome. I think it's beautiful because I adored, I call it Dinosaur Rock. Yes. I adore that. Yeah. It's quite a little bit around the bend, but I'd love to see it. So bring it right on.
Well, I know that was kind of just trying to bring some visual interest and knowing a little bit about World's End and the big rock and how important that is.
Yes.
I was like, let's just put it in.
Yeah. When I first went with Cap to World's End, I said, what's the name of that? I like to name everything.
Yes.
Which is, annoying to those who don't name things. But so I call it Dinosaur Rock because it kind of looks like a dinosaur egg, maybe, if I was just walking in prehistoric times and there's like a giant egg. I don't know.
Well, I love it. We were recently up in Maine and my children named a huge outcropping of rocks the Daddy Manatee Rock. So we name rocks too.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So is painting like a fluid process for you? Do you do it all in one stretch? Like you start and then you just like go crazy till 6 a.m. the next morning? I know you have kids, so you probably don't do that.
Right.
But or do you come back and forth to it? Do you I mean, what's your process?
My process really starts with the left side of my brain. I think a lot about the composition, how things are going to look, where the negative spaces, how the values lay out. So I think a lot about the painting and the structure of the painting. And so but once I get started, it is just the flow, the fluid. Sometimes my brush moves and mixes colors and I don't even know what I'm doing. It just happens.
What you're talking about. Yes, I do.
But with kids, there is a bedtime because I know that there will be an early morning. And so I do have to make myself stop. But I think that's a good practice because something I've been taught and something that I truly believe in is you have to step away. Right. You have to be able to see it, the perspective of what you're painting, and you could get so lost in the deep weeds of what this one hay bale looks like that you forget the whole painting has to come together. Yeah. So I think it's good sometimes. I feel like sometimes our parameters are what make us have to be creative and overcome those things.
That's a great way to look at it, is the parameters that make that.
Well, sometimes I go to bed not liking a painting and I wake up and I just like, oh my goodness, I love it. So you never know.
Yeah,
and
with fresh eyes.
Sometimes the opposite is true too.
So. I used to like to do monotypes a lot because after it went through the roller, I would be able to see it with new eyes because I know what I made on the plexiglass or the zinc or whatever plate I was using. But then when it went through that, I had a fresh perspective again because it had kind of gone through. Interesting. And so, do you have a sign on your door where your kids know, mommy's painting, or kids interrupt.
That's their nature, and they interrupt the flow. And I can tell. There was a day recently that I had this great painting I was starting. I was so excited. And I was just constantly interrupted. And so it just didn't come together. And I think a lot of it's just the flow just stopped. Yeah. But they know, and we've been blessed. We have a wonderful neighbor friend that I've hired as a mother's helper, and so her job is to keep the kids and just play.
Just play while
play while I paint. Mm-hmm. And so that's usually their playtime. I paint, and hopefully the two do not interact.
Yeah, so funny. My son calls in the middle of the interview just to hammer that point across. And they don't stop doing that even when they're 21.
No, and a mother never stops being a mother either.
Exactly. So. Always nice to hear his voice, and I'm sure he's going to love these paintings too. Good. I've been telling him about them.
Oh, wonderful.
Of course, he's up in Boston, but I've been, telling him each little step in the home. And I said, today Holly's coming over with not one, not two, but three paintings, which is awesome. Just the color we need infused into this home. So I think we were talking about your studio and your mommy's helper and your children and flow, because flow really, it took us a second even to think what we were talking about. Right?
Exactly.
But is your studio messy? Are you somebody who just, when you paint, are you just, everything goes and you just like...
It does, but it's also in the center of the home because this house, we are currently building onto the house for the studio.
Oh,
so
I'm
excited.
You have hammers going like I do too?
Well, I should say the planning process has been started, but it's an exciting thing because I get to choose and figure out the layout and how the flow needs to work in the space and where the easel will be and where the desk and the mat cutter and all the things that will be a part of the studio. So I'm so excited. Talk about designing and implementing.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And so this one you did the full canvas paint around the edge. And some people like that. I like that. And then, or I could get it framed if I wanted to.
Right, exactly.
Also.
And a good look for these canvases, I think, are the floater frames where they show the edge, but then it just leaves a little bit of mystery of what.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. So has anyone ever given you an idea for a custom painting that you thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that, or oh, I have to do that, or anything like that, or has every person who has ever asked you for a custom been like, yes, bring it on?
Yes. I feel like there's a little bit of a yes, bring it on, but I've also learned through the years that I know what my strengths are and I need to play to those strengths. I am not an abstract artist, and as abstract seems so simple and so straightforward, but to make it and have it look good and balanced, it's hard. Yeah. And I was asked once to do an abstract, and I totally worked at it, and I felt like I was banging my head against the door. So I just said thank you, but I can't do it.
Yeah, interesting. So, because people do think abstracts are easy because the form can be simplistic, but to get that form simplistically to look great is harder than it looks.
Right.
For sure.
I find sometimes to scale back the detail and to go more simple, it really is harder because it puts more weight on color and composition and even just what your brush is doing.
Right, and distillation is really about.
Distillation. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what do people ask you to paint most? I mean, what percentage of your work is custom and what is just you saying, here's what I did, who wants it?
I know, which is fun. I enjoy the aspect of both. And right now it's about a 50-50 breakdown. Yeah. And which gives me some freedom because currently I'm working on some paintings for a woman's dining room, and she's found a couple that she likes that I've done in the past, but she wants them tweaked for her own space or just something similar for her own space. And so it's using her desires, and I love getting to figure out what she wants, but then also she's giving me the leeway to create it. And then lots of times I just paint what I love, and it's exciting to have other people identify with it and want to put it in their own home.
Now, these are acrylics.
Yes, they are.
And do you only paint in acrylics?
I mainly use acrylics just because of some of the, aroma. There's some issues since I do paint. My studio is in my home.
With children?
With young children. Mm-hmm. So I do acrylics instead of oil. Mm-hmm. But the method that I use and that I was taught is able to kind of mimic oil in not only the look, but also having it dry on a slower way, in a slower time.
Some sort of medium?
Yes. So I use a retarder as well as a gloss medium just to help it, that slows down the drying time so that you can brush into it almost in the alla prima method.
But if people wanted to, do you have like a backlog of people you're painting for? Or, I mean, let's just say I wanted a painting by the holidays.
Right.
Is it possible to do that?
It's possible. As I work, I'm able to fit things in, and sometimes things have a lower priority. Sometimes people are still making decisions. Sometimes people are moving and they're saying, I want this done for my new house, but we're not going to be in until a certain date. Yeah. So even though I may have a backlog, I can usually wiggle things around if I can. But because I love to paint, I love to bring light, life, and color into people's homes.
So. And so how long would a piece like the boat piece take you? I mean, I know you do a rough one first, which I couldn't believe it when you sent me the rough one first. She's painting twice.
Right.
I guess, I do know that you do studies. A lot of artists do studies. But it seemed like yours was pretty fleshed out for a study.
It's pretty fleshed out.
I was like, wow, that's beautiful.
And that is, I used to do smaller studies, and then I realized that if you're going to go large, sometimes having the freedom of your brush, it almost is easier to start with a little bit of a larger study.
Yeah. And so how long would that take you?
Each time it varies, just the amount of time I can focus on something varies. And then, but usually I can finish a painting within a week. And then between the conversations and going back and forth, it's usually about a month process from start to finish.
Well, that sounds perfect. So,
yes.
And you have a website.
I do. I have a website, hollycobleart.com.
And there's samples there if people wanted to get ideas of what they might,
yes.
or they might already have a photograph or something
yes.
like that, or they might just throw out a concept and you say, let me just give it a stab and see what it says.
Exactly.
So all of that works.
Right.
Wow.
And I also have art that is for sale, and a couple of my popular paintings. I've done a limited edition of prints.
Oh, really? So, which ones are those? What's the subject of those?
Well, one is a floral that is, it's just, again, it was one of the flow paintings, and it's been exciting to see the reception.
Yeah, it's mass appeal.
It has mass appeal, but at the same time, it means a lot to me. And so it's kind of the double meaning of that. But I've done a limited edition print of that, and then also of, I can't even think. Of the small swimmers. So my study for your larger painting. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
People loving that.
People have gone bananas over it. So.
Yeah.
So yes, the small swimmers. I went ahead and just did a small batch of prints just so that I can. That's awesome. Because sometimes the price point doesn't. People don't necessarily have the money for original art, but prints.
Or maybe they're afraid to ask too.
Yes. Like, how much will that be? But a print is something that usually is accessible, and there are different framing options, and so it's a way to bring art into your home in a very accessible way.
Yeah. So. And so what's your plan? Do you have a plan? Are you going to paint forever and ever and ever? Are you going to are you going to go into limited edition prints more, or mass production more in terms of some, but still retain the painting aspect? Or do you have any plans, or are you just going with the flow?
What? I think in life we just kind of need to go with the flow, but then we also need to seize the opportunity. Yeah. And so for me, painting's always going to be my first love. Yeah. In art, and so just having the opportunity to paint and to do what I love and to have an income is a wonderful thing. But I do love when people respond to my work. It really just ignites me, and so for that, I like to be able to do the prints just because of the accessibility with the cost, as well as just be able to sometimes get your name out there to a broader audience. But painting will always be my number one passion.
Yeah. So. Well, I think it's a natural thing, and it's always great to be able to do what feels natural and right, and be able to make a living at it.
Exactly.
And bring people joy. I see all the boxes checked. I don't see a box not checked right here. So.
Well, I always love, live where you love, do what you love, and I feel like living here in New England has just been such a fit for us and our family, and as transplants, and then to be able to do what I love, and to be able to, it's just a blessing. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, and also inspiration from
a
new infusion of inspiration from your environment here.
I walk outside and I feel like I'm constantly jaw dropped.
So before you leave town, I suggest to go find yourself many vistas where you can paint.
Well, I'm definitely going to be taking lots of pictures today.
Well, thank you so much for these paintings. They're very special. I can't wait to see them up. You'll see it in the final episode. They'll be all up in their place.
That would be wonderful.
I'm not promising anyone they're going to be exactly where, because the painting's going to have its own say, and all the other players. But
it's your home, so I'm sure
beautiful.
Whatever you do will be beautiful.
They're fun and beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, continued success, and thanks for bringing them here by hand.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
We've talked so much in this process that I feel like I already know you. So this is finally getting to meet you face to face.
Well, same. Thank you.
You're welcome.